Hi guys, this is Pratishtha, your IELTS trainer, and in this session we are specifically going to talk about speaking. And in this speaking, it's not going to be dialogues; it's going to be monologues. In fact, so the difference between dialogues and monologues is pretty simple. Dialogue means a discussion between two people, so that is why it's die. Die means two, right? It's a prefix. And monologue means a single person. So essentially, in IELTS, you have to make a conversation. So there has to be a dialogue, but then also there has to be a monologue. And the invigilator can ask you to speak for a long time on something that, like something about you, right? So when you have your introduction, you could be asked to speak on a topic. For example, let's say your neighbor, right? What kind of neighbor do you have and why do you like them? Do you think that having neighbor is essential? So on and so forth. So you have quite a couple of things that would be asked to you. But in today's session, we will keep it somewhere from basic to intermediate level, where we will go ahead and see how we can talk about some basic topics like hobbies and things like such. So without further ado, let's just move on to that part of speaking and let's see what we have for today. So, yeah. So we have today speaking practice discussion on familiar topics, right? So we are going to be discussing on some familiar topics. In this session, we will engage in discussion on familiar topics. The familiar topics essentially means um, everyday topics, right? We will practice expressing opinions and ideas clearly, right? So we will express our opinion. Opinion means what you think, right? So opinion means what you think. And ideas clearly improve fluency and confidence in speaking. So that will definitely help us to improve fluency and confidence. Now, why just familiar topics? Like, why not another kind of topics? So, familiar topics would really help us give that kickstart because they are familiar to us. Human beings are human beings are designed in such a way that they would feel I would say more comfortable when the topics and things and surroundings around them are comfortable. So it improves fluency by practicing speaking in a familiar context. It enhances vocabulary related to everyday conversations, and it encourages natural and spontaneous speaking, right? So beginning with something that's familiar will really help us improve our speaking in general and create spontaneity in our speaking. So spontaneity essentially means um, how quickly you can talk about general stuff. So that's like being spontaneous. Common topics for discussion. What common topics do we have in general? Like when we meet someone, what are some of the common topics? So examples are hobbies and interests. So we have different kinds of hobbies. Talk about your favorite activities and why you enjoy them, right? So what's your favorite activity? Why do you enjoy them? So on and so forth. Travel. A lot of people like to travel. So most of the time it's a great topic. So travel experience or place you'd like to visit. Food, anything related to food. So discuss your favorite dishes or recent meals that you have had. Movies and TV shows, right? So talk about what you're watching and why you like it, right? And then you need to talk about your daily routine. So express your typical day and what do you do in that day. So these are essentially all the topics that you need to focus on for now, right? Because these are the most basic ones. So discussing hobbies and interest. Pair up with a classmate and take turns discussing your hobbies and interest. What you can talk about is what are your favorite hobbies? How often do you engage in these activities? And why do you enjoy them? So in IELTS, whenever you are speaking, no matter what topic, if you said, if the invigilator asks you that, do you like um, playing cricket? You say yes or you say no, right? but you need to explain why. Know why. So the invigilator can ask you really stupid question which will not make sense. And to be honest, it has happened. But you still have to explain why. Like it's pretty common that, for example, will you steal? No, of course. But why? Right? So you have to explain why. Whatever you are saying, you have to explain. When you're talking about traveling, you can talk about where have you traveled recently? So the most recent travel. What was your favorite destination? You can talk about that and why, of course, right? Why is it your favorite? Are there any places you would like to visit in future? So in future, is there anything in your mind? So this would really help you, use present, past, and future tenses. And this would be a great thing. The more tenses you use while speaking as well, the better your experience is. Then you have discussing food. Again, one of the most common topics. What is your favorite type of cuisine and why? Describe a memorable meal you recently had. So you can talk about, for example, you went outside to eat with your friends and you had a great time, I don't know, having food because it was a potluck. Everyone got food from their different states or countries, and you got to experience a lot of culture through those food, so on and so forth, basic stuff like that. And then you have, do you enjoy cooking? If so, what do you like to cook? So you can say, yes, I do like cooking because I have lived as a student all my life. So unfortunately, I had to learn how to cook, right? Or you can say, no, I do not like cooking because I am a full time student and I work as well. So I don't get as much time to cook. But yes, if someday if I get an opportunity, I would love to learn how to cook because I feel cooking is like an art. So something like that. You really have to. In IELTS, most of the kids they are stuck in if I will be able to, um, speak and like even if I'm speaking, if I should speak the truth. So no, you don't have to speak the truth because they are not going to verify. Just speak what comes in your mind. They are testing you on your fluency and not on your truths, right? So just speak whatever comes to your mind. So let's see, we have sample answers. Talk about your favorite activities and why you enjoy them. That's the first topic. So sample answer is, one of my favorite hobbies is reading. I love getting lost in a good book because it allows me to escape reality and explore new worlds. I mostly enjoy reading fiction, especially fantasy novels, because they stimulate my imagination. Stimulate my imagination means I imagine more and introduce me to characters and cultures that are different from my own. Reading also helps me relax after a busy day, and I find it a great way to improve my vocabulary and language skills. Besides reading, I also enjoy playing the guitar, which I find really fulfilling as it allows me to express my creativity and unwind after a long day. Right? So, this could be about your hobby. You talked about what is your hobby, why do you like it, what kind do you like. So, essentially, what kind, where you can just give some examples, right? And why do you like it? That's all. Travel. Share your travel experiences or places you would like to visit. So last year, I had the chance to visit Japan, and it was an incredible experience. I visited Tokyo and Kyoto, two very different cities. Tokyo was a modern, bustling metropolis full of technology and innovation, while Kyoto had a more traditional and serene vibe with beautiful temples and gardens. I particularly enjoyed experiencing the Japanese culture, from their unique food like sushi and ramen to traditional customs such as tea ceremonies. Right. So again, if you're talking about if you're talking about um, a different kind of country you don't know the culture about, just speak very basic stuff, right? And you don't have to talk about going abroad. You can just talk about, I visited Bangalore, for example, and there I saw beautiful gardens. And Bangalore has such a rich culture, like the South Indian culture, and then talk about their food, how it is very different from, probably if you live in North, talk about how it is very different from the culture of North. Or you can talk about, if you live in South, you can talk about visiting Uti, or things like that. And if you want to talk about going abroad, you can just talk about basic, like normal countries, like, I visited Dubai, I visited Singapore. Just talk about, if you can, talk about countries the monuments of, right? Just like, and add two or three monuments, tell why you like them, talk about any of their dances, any of their food items, right? So these are two, three basic things that you can talk about. If I had a chance, I would love to visit New Zealand next, as the natural landscapes there, like mountains and lakes, look breathtaking, and I have always wanted to try outdoor activities like hiking and kayaking there, right? So these are things that you can try, and that is pretty much it for hobbies. Your favorite dish or recent meal you have had? One of my favorite dishes is spaghetti carbonara. It's a simple yet delicious Italian pasta dish made with eggs, cheese, pancetta. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but I think it's pancetta, and pepper. I love it because the flavors are rich but not overwhelming. So the flavors are good, but it's like not too many flavors. And it's a perfect comfort food, right? So it's a great food. Recently, I went to a new restaurant in town and had an amazing dish of chicken biryani. So this is favorite dish, and this is like recent dish. The rice was fragrant with spices like cardamom and cinnamon, and the chicken was tender and flavorful. What I really liked was the balance of spices. It wasn't too hot, but it had a lot of depth. I've been thinking about trying to cook it at home ever since. So you can just, be a little creative. Take it not as a test, just take it as, as your, I would say, like a conversation. But again, it's not a conversation, it's not a dialogue, it's more like a monologue. So try to explain as much as you can. When you're talking about something, just transport yourself into that situation, right? Imagine that you are in that situation, and then try to explain as much as you can. The main thing here is speaking fluently, speaking without stopping. Talk about what you're watching and why you like it, right? So, any show that you can take. Recently, I've been watching a TV show called Stranger Things. It's a science fiction, so you talked about the genre. Series set in 1980s that combines elements of mystery, suspense, and a little bit of horror, right? So you are essentially just talking about the genre of the series. The show focuses on a group of kids who uncover strange and supernatural occurrences in small town. What I like most about the show is how it balances nostalgia with a compelling plot. Nostalgia means like taking you back to childhood. Not specifically childhood, I would say, but like to your past, memory. With a compelling plot means the storyline was really good. The characters are well developed, and the mix of mystery and adventure keeps me hooked. Plus, the special effects and soundtrack really capture the eerie atmosphere of the story. Eerie means like scary, making it an engaging and thrilling watch. Then you have describe your typical day, right? So you have to talk about basic things when you wake up, what all do you do? So sort of when you have this kind of a question, start off think of imagining, yourself in that situation. You can talk about weekday and weekend routine, which is different. So that will give you like more content to speak on. So you can say on a typical weekday, I wake up at around 7 a.m., have a quick breakfast, and then head to work by 8. I work as a graphic designer, so my day involves a lot of creativity and problem solving. I spend most of my morning working on design projects, collaborating with my team, and responding to emails. Around noon, I take a lunch break, or I take a break for lunch, usually something like a salad or a sandwich. In the afternoon, I try to focus on bigger tasks like developing new concepts or preparing presentation for clients. After work, I like to unwind by going to the gym or reading a book. My evenings are pretty relaxed. I usually have dinner around 7 p.m. and then watch TV or catch up with friends online before going to bed around 11. Right? So basically, whatever you get, I would really suggest try to get into situations, try to imagine those situations, even if it's not your, um, even if it is something that has not happened with you in real life, try to imagine it. What would you like to do in those situations? What would you like your general, I would say, thoughts to be? What would you like your fantasy to be, right, in that situation? For example, if you are talking about your favorite food, think of why would you like it, right? But like, what kind of food would you like? Why would you like it? Just start imagining that food and talk about that. Tips for effective discussion is listen actively, pay attention to what the other person is saying and respond appropriately, ask open questions, encourage your partner to share more by asking questions. So this is just like for practice. It's not for IELTS. In IELTS, they won't be asking you that way. But when you're practicing with your partner, ask them to ask you more questions, right? The more questions they will ask you, why, even if it's the smallest of questions, it would help you speak up more. And that is our priority, just to speak as much as possible. Share your thoughts, contribute to the conversation by sharing your experiences and opinions. So you can also talk about your opinion. What do you think of it? For example, I went to Italy last vacations and I really loved the beautiful monuments. However, I do feel that some of the monuments are really overhyped, according to me, in my opinion, right? So use those words like I think, because that's really important. I think, I believe, according to me, in my opinion, etc. Right? So this will really help up. Uh, this is actually like a really good way of speaking, and this, in fact, will fetch you points as well. So if you have any doubts about listening, speaking specifically, because in this chapter we covered speaking, if you have any doubts about speaking and anything that you're not sure of, you can just ask. You can feel free to discuss any of your strategies, something that works for you, because it's possible that, something that is working for me or maybe someone else is not the same thing as working for you, or with a little bit of tweaks, it works for you. So, whatever it is, feel free to clarify it. Feel free to discuss as much as you can. This is an open portal. Today we today we engaged in discussion on familiar topics. We practiced expressing our opinions and ideas clearly. We discussed some tips. We discussed some real life monologues. So your homework can be practice these monologues, take these topics up, practice them. Record yourself talking about your hobbies, your travel experience, favorite food, basic stuff like that. If you feel that you find any new vocabulary or phrases, try to use them in that sentence. And that is pretty much it for this chapter. I hope you all have a great time, and I hope you learned. And I hope you'll be able to use all of this. And I will see you in the next lesson.